Sonic, the heart of your system.
I'm Lian for KitGuru. When I was at CES a few months ago, Gigabyte showed me their Aorus Waterforce. They were very keen to point out that motherboard had their own water blocks on board. It's not a third-party block one, it's one they designed and made in-house. And it's about $1,000. Current price in the UK is £950. There's also a bundle we've seen advertised in the States with an i9 binned processor, apparently good for 5.1 gigahertz, I think, for like $1,500 US. The numbers are kind of irrelevant. And they said, we've got this motherboard. And I said, hang on, we've had this discussion. Value for money is going to be, really painful. They said, we've got a better plan than that. I said, do tell. They said, we'll send you the product and you do a build and just basically have fun with it. I thought, that sounds great. So you get this enormous box. I mean, as a motherboard box, it is just huge, which in turn contains this box, which is like an oversized motherboard box, which contains the board. So it is stripped down. It doesn't have any cooling on the VRMs or the chipset because there's this other quite hefty box, which is the all-in-one monoblock. And that is a big fella. Now, at first glance, it looks a bit kind of EK stroke bits power-esque, but the thing is, it is a hefty, great big monoblock that covers CPU, VRMs, SSDs, chipset. I mean, that is large. And in addition, you get this. Now, this is the Aorus RGB fan commander. This I like. So that's the actual control unit. You can plug up to 8 fans into it. You also get a huge number of accessory cables, so you can extend and control both a PWM, and each of the cables is a split. It's a Y piece, so it handles PWM and RGB. The idea being, if you're doing a sort of a super over-the-top liquid cooled build and you're going to have multiple fans, I mean, certainly 3, obviously, plus an exhaust for 4. But if you've got 2 rads, that's what, 6, plus the one at the back, maybe 7. Or you're going push-pull. Easily, you're going to get up to 8 fans. And how are you going to control 8 fans from any sane motherboard? So if you can use this unit to control 8, and then you're going to have various headers. I mean, I can see 3 at the bottom there in themselves. You've got 2 up the top there. There's probably going to be 1 somewhere around here. There typically would be. There's 1 on the side there, 1 there. Okay, I can see 7 headers off the top of my head on this board, first glance. So in total, you can control essentially an infinite number of fans. I like that a lot. This is the accessory box that comes with the Waterforce board. Look like a couple of thermal sensors. A mass of cables and adapters and such like, including Wi-Fi. So a huge amount of hardware. Nonetheless, the fear is, were I doing a straight review of a $1,000, £950 motherboard? I mean, the MSI Godlike Gaming, which was a good motherboard, which was £600 or £650, and it was just like, well, it's great, but how much money? So the idea of going 50% more, even if you're getting a load of extra hardware, a bit painful. So Gigabyte sent me the Waterforce Z390 motherboard, and they've also sent me, that block is heavy, they've sent me this, which is the Aorus Xtreme GeForce RTX 2080, which is the matching graphics card to RTX 2080 with their own block and backplate. In addition to the graphics card and motherboard, I've got this Aorus RGB memory and an RGB M.2 SSD, and we also, pick it up casually, have an Aorus power supply, 850 watts. So that is all the Gigabyte hardware, but obviously I need a case and I'm going to have to do something with the cooling. For the case, I've gone for Lian Li 011 Dynamic, a case that for some reason I just have not reviewed. So that's the guts of the system, very expensive guts. This is the case, and then we've got the cooling, which is all by EKWB. So we have 2 of the SE360 radiators. We have no less than 9 Vardar RGB fans, 3 for one rad, 3 for the other rad, 3 for the other rad location. So 9 fans, hence I'm really glad about that fan commander from Gigabyte. We have a D5 pump res unit, some white coolant, that's their CryoFuel solid. We've got a whole bunch of fittings. and we've got some tube. So that's an awful lot of hardware, including the Intel Core i9 9900K processor. I reckon that is £3,500 worth of hardware. And now it's time to get on and do some actual PC building.
I'm hoping what I said could make you change your mind, though it doesn't really matter when my hands are tied. I'm trying to walk across the bridges that I've burned. My only way to you is gone, the tide has turned. So give me a light, show me what I need. I know I'm blind, but I hear symphonies of your heartbeat. Trapped inside, I forgot to look beyond, I see the other side. So give me a light, show me what I need. I know I'm blind, but I hear symphonies of your heartbeat. Now that's an understatement. To walk alone, I guess it's my repayment. Please give me a light, show me what I need. I know I'm blind, but I hear symphonies of your
With the graphics card installed horizontally, the manifold where the unions go extends outside the frame of the case. You cannot put the side panel on. That's obviously no good, so the only alternative is to go with a vertical mount for the graphics card, which means that this bottom radiator and fan assembly, that's going to have to come out. So it's time to undo some of this good work. This kit for mounting the graphics card vertically comes in two parts. This part goes at the rear and this part goes in the bottom like so to mount the graphics card, and it means that you have a choice of where exactly you mount the graphics card, how far in or out you want to position it. And we have a small bag of fasteners there. But the really neat thing, in my opinion, apart from the fact that you've got the hardware to vertically mount the graphics card, is that you don't actually require any major surgery. And with the blanks removed, the rear section is completely open. It doesn't have those dividers that we're used to. And I can now put that bracket in place like so. Take a couple of the screws I've previously removed. I say a couple, but it might actually be 3. And now we're in a position to mount our graphics card. So the other part of the hardware is this brace that goes in the bottom. Depending on which position I want the graphics card to mount in, how far in or out I want it to be, I remove these 2 screws and simply move that PCI Express extension out. Let us see where looks to be in the right place. I've jiggled my brackets around and I'm now happy with the position. I am slightly baffled by the fact that this bracket can clearly move further outwards even though there are no slots for it to line up with, but never mind, this is the outermost point I can use. And in the pack of fasteners I've got 4 of these thumb screws, of which I need 2, which is a sensible little addition because I wouldn't be able to put a regular screw in place because I can't get a screwdriver in overhead. So even though these screws actually have a crosshead, there's not a chance of using them with a screwdriver. So you do them up with the finger and thumb. So there we have it. So that's the graphics card installed, and by moving it out a couple of positions I've got half a chance of being able to connect it, taking the outlet from there up to the monoblock. So that is the graphics card in place. That is now looking plausible. It does of course mean I've had to move the radiator. The fact of the matter is this case doesn't really quite support 3 360 rads. What it does support is 9 120 fans, which might sound like exactly the same thing, but it isn't. Here's an illustration. So the EKSE radiators are very sleek, they're quite slender. It obviously has 3x120 fan mounts, but it's quite what I think of as tanky. So if you look at the bottom end here where the unions are, it extends beyond, and then it's got this sort of covers, and it's all very neat and tidy, but it means the rad is quite long. By contrast, this AlphaCool 360 rad, here again 3x120s, I've lined up the fan mounts. You can see at the top it's pretty much the same height as the EK, maybe a mil shy. Down the bottom you've got some millimeters of clearance because essentially AlphaCool's manufactured it such that you have the shape follows the unions, and therefore you've got a gap in the middle which is completely irrelevant, but you haven't got this cosmetic cover here. Hence you've got by eye 3, maybe 4 mil of clearance. But the thing is that that's the length, or if you have the rad installed vertically, the height of the rad. So when you come to put the rad in a case like this, that is almost exactly 3x120 tall, what you actually find is that things like the heads of the rivets in the case that hold the assembly together actually foul. This rad, were I to put it in the bottom, as a mark on it there where I've tried doing exactly that, that was fouling on the head of one of the rivets. Doesn't really matter because were I to put it in, it would be completely flush and that flange would be in the way. You need that gives you a continuance such that this piece is supported. Were I to cut that away in its entirety, it would kind of work, but it means that this panel here would then be flapping around to a certain extent. You need that continuance to give it some structure. So if you cut that away to clear your unions, it would kind of work, but it wouldn't be ideal. Now I can actually install this AlphaCool rad were I to want to do so in that position there. I haven't for two reasons. One is this is an EK build along with Gigabyte and such like, therefore it would sort of ruin the branding. The other thing is that I can put this rad in with the unions at the top but not at the bottom. It's the same problem I have with the EK, which is that the unions will be interfering with that continuance there. So if I put them in at the top, then I've got the question of, do I actually want to be trying to hook up to the top there as well as to the top here? I could do that, but it might get a touch messy. So two reasons not to do that. So it is possible to put a 360 rad in this case, just not this 360 rad. I can put this 360 in. While I'm talking radiators, let's also take a brief look at this Black Ice Nemesis 240 GTS. Obviously 2x120 rather than 3x120. In this instance, look at the width of it as I plonk it on top first of the EK and then on top of the AlphaCool. It is quite a bit wider. This bracketry they add on, which is this kind of shroud and then the threads are carried in it, it makes it significantly wider. In terms of the overall height, it's actually not so bad, but in terms of the width, it is wider than many radiators on the market. And depending on your installation, when you're putting a rad in the front of the case, for example, a black ice can be pretty much impossible. So just because a case says it supports 2x120, 2x140, 3x120, or whatever it might be, it does not necessarily follow that you can install any radiator that has that configuration in this case. So, long story sideways, I'm keeping this 360 rad in the roof. I've obviously ditched the bottom rad. I am not putting this EK rad in this position here. I'm going to put the 3 fans back in that position and I'm going to switch them around so they are now intaking because this side panel is ventilated. So air is going to be coming in from here. We have the bottom open and then we're exhausting there. It's worth pointing out the Lian 011 is raised at the bottom. This is a proper air intake area, which is why having the rad in the bottom with the fans in pull made a lot of sense. It's just not possible. So that is what is going on.
Can you ask me anything? It's been like in a while.
the system assembled and I'm ready to start filling it with coolant, and I've got to confess I am somewhat nervous because I haven't used any of these components before. So let's put some more coolant in and then I'll hit the button. Just realised, proper motherboard, micro buttons. Jeepers, that's a big loop. Not just a CPU block of course, but a mono block, and in addition we've got the graphics card, and that's a 140 reservoir, which is not enormous. I mean 250 would be big, but that's getting through the coolant. I mean that's about 3/4 of a litre I reckon so far, including what's in the squeezy bottle. If you haven't figured, by the way, this is my slightly paranoid face. I'm not going to declare a triumph, not yet, but no catastrophe. So big thumbs up, monitor time, BIOS, software, all that good stuff. that's it. The build's finished. I'm done. It works. The RGB is behaving. There's no leaks. I'm happy. And as this isn't a review, I don't have a buying verdict for you, which is really unusual. This has been a feature. That's what it's been, a feature. So I'm not telling you whether you should or should not buy any of this hardware, but if you go over to KitGuru webpage, you'll find loads of photos, buy links, and all other stuff, product information galore, because there is a long list of components involved here, which came from 3 separate companies. So we've got Gigabyte sent over all the Aorus Waterforce kit, including the Intel CPU, incidentally, that came from Gigabyte themselves. We've got EKWB cooling, and we've got the Lian Leo 11 dynamic and PCI Express riser. They came from overclockers.co.uk. So that's it. That's where all the hardware came from, and if you go to KitGuru, you can read more about it. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't, thumbs down if you must. Do hit the bell button, subscribe. We'll let you know about new videos as they become available. I'm Leo Walder for KitGuru. This has been a lot of fun.